Hey everyone, and welcome back to Talk Tickers. Today, we're going to be diving into Transocean's Q4 2024 earnings call.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting one.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here.
For sure, a lot to unpack. I think, looking at the world of offshore drilling and kind of how this industry giant is navigating the changing energy landscape.
Absolutely. So let's start with the headline numbers here.
Okay.
Transocean brought in $952 million in revenue,
Yeah.
with an adjusted EBITDA of $323 million.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a 34% margin.
Right.
And for the full year, they hit $1.15 billion in adjusted EBITDA.
Yeah, not bad.
Not bad at all. But here's where it gets interesting.
Yeah, well, I think the thing that really stood out to me was how the CEO was talking about how customers are really prioritizing their high-spec rigs.
Right.
Even if it means paying a premium.
Which is...
they're really willing to shell out top dollar for Transocean's expertise and technology.
So break that down for me a little bit.
Sure.
What exactly makes these rigs so special?
Well, I mean, think of it this way, drilling for oil isn't a one-size-fits-all situation.
Right.
Especially when you're dealing with extreme depths and pressures.
Okay.
You need specialized equipment and expertise, and, Transocean is leading the way with what they call 20K subsea completions.
Okay.
Which is basically the most advanced way to tap into these challenging reservoirs.
So they've got the heavy-duty equipment for the toughest jobs out there.
Exactly.
Got it.
And this specialization is translating into some impressive contracts. For example, Reliance Industries in India just extended their contract for the KG-1 rig at a whopping $410,000 per day.
Wow, that's some serious cash flow.
Yeah.
But, their fleet is pretty much booked solid through mid-2026.
Right.
What happens after that?
Well, that's what caught my attention, too, is they're already in discussions for multi-year contracts starting in late 2026 and 2027, suggesting a big wave of new deepwater projects are coming.
So even though things might be a bit slow in some regions in 2025, Transocean seems pretty confident about the long game.
Absolutely. They're playing the long game, especially in the U.S. Gulf, where they expect to land those specialized projects that require their 20K completion rigs. Okay. And then down in Latin America, particularly Brazil, things are really heating up. Petrobras is expected to keep its rig count steady with potential for even more demand.
Wow.
Plus, Shell and BP are making big moves in Brazil. More good news for Transocean.
It sounds like Brazil could be a gold mine for them.
Yeah, potentially.
What about other regions?
Well, Equinor in Norway is putting out tenders for multiple rigs starting in late 2026, early 2027.
Okay.
And Transocean's known for their expertise in harsh environments, making them a strong contender.
So they're like the all-weather experts of offshore drilling.
You could say that.
Okay.
And on top of that, we're seeing long-term projects emerging in Australia and India.
Okay.
It's clear that demand for deepwater drilling is on the rise globally.
It's a global drilling boom.
Yeah.
But what's driving this surge in demand? I thought the world was moving away from fossil fuels.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And it's a complex issue.
Yeah.
While there's definitely a global push towards renewables,
Sure.
the reality is that the world still relies heavily on oil and gas.
So it's not as simple as flipping a switch and going 100% green.
Exactly. The energy transition will take time.
Okay.
And in the meantime, we need reliable and affordable energy sources.
For sure.
And that's where companies like Transocean come in.
Okay.
They're providing the resources that are essential for keeping the lights on and the world running.
Right. And they're also investing heavily in technology.
Right.
To make offshore drilling safer and more efficient.
Yeah.
So you mentioned robotics earlier.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that. Are they building robot drillers or something?
Well, not quite robot drillers, but they're definitely pushing the boundaries of automation.
Yep.
Those 20K subsea completions we talked about?
Yeah.
They've already installed 2 of those systems on their 8th generation drill ships.
Wow.
And on the Transocean Norway, they've actually used AI to automate some pretty dangerous tasks, like casing running and offline stand building.
Yeah.
This not only keeps workers out of harm's way, but also makes the whole process more efficient.
So they're using cutting-edge tech to boost both safety and productivity.
Exactly.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
What else are they doing on the tech front?
Well, they've also developed a robotic riser system.
Okay.
So imagine a giant robotic arm that can safely connect those massive pipes used to transport oil from the seabed to the surface.
Okay.
It's one of the riskiest parts of offshore drilling, and they've found a way to make it safer for everyone involved.
Okay, that's seriously cool.
Yeah.
It sounds like they're going all in on innovation. But what about the human side of things? We know CEO Jeremy Thigpen is stepping down after a decade at the helm. What does that mean for Transocean?
Yeah, it's definitely the end of an era, but I think it speaks to the strength of their leadership team. You know, Keelan Adamson, who will be taking over as CEO, is a Transocean veteran who started his career on the drill floor.
Talk about working your way up.
Right.
That's like a real-life Horatio Alger story.
Yeah, for sure.
But with all this talk about growth and innovation, what about their financials? Are they keeping an eye on costs?
They are. In fact, they've launched a company-wide cost reduction analysis to identify areas where they can be even more efficient.
Okay.
They're planning to share more details in their Q1 2025 earnings call, so that's something to keep an eye on.
Okay.
But overall, they're projecting full year 2025 revenue to be between $3.85 billion and $3.95 billion.
So they're not just resting on their laurels, they're actively looking for ways to improve their bottom line.
Exactly. And I think that proactive approach, combined with their technological edge and their focus on safety, puts them in a really strong position for the future.
All right, let's shift gears for a moment and talk about the bigger picture.
Okay.
We mentioned how the world still needs oil and gas, but there's also this massive push towards renewable energy.
Yeah.
How does Transocean fit into this evolving energy landscape?
That's a key question, and it's something we'll explore further in part 2 of our deep dive.
Okay.
But one thing that really struck me was the CEO's comment about how even companies known for their focus on renewables, companies like Equinor, are recognizing that the transition won't happen overnight.
So even the most eco-conscious companies are realizing we can't just ditch fossil fuels cold turkey.
It seems that way, and that's a key takeaway for our listeners.
Okay.
The energy sector is in a state of flux.
Right.
But traditional oil and gas are still major players.
Right.
And companies like Transocean, with their expertise, their technology, and their commitment to safety, are poised to play a crucial role in this evolving landscape.
It's a fascinating story of innovation, adaptation, and the enduring demand for the energy that powers our world.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
But before we move on to part 2, we've got to have a little fun with our This is not financial advice segment.
Let's do it.
Okay, so imagine this. Transocean partners with a cutting-edge aerospace company to develop a fleet of autonomous, solar-powered offshore drilling platforms.
Whoa.
Space-age rigs powered by the sun and controlled by AI.
Now that's a bold idea. Could they pull it off?
I don't know why not. Transocean's clearly not afraid to push the boundaries of what's possible. Think about it. Reduce emissions, enhance safety, and access to even more challenging drilling locations. It sounds like science fiction, but who knows? Maybe it's the future of offshore drilling.
It would certainly be a game changer. But remember, this is just a fun thought experiment.
Right.
We encourage everyone to do their own research before making any investment decisions.
Exactly. We'll be back with part 2 of our deep dive into Transocean's Q4 2024 earnings call, where we'll delve even deeper into the company's strategy, their competitive landscape, and the broader trends shaping the energy sector.
Sounds good.
See you there.
All right. Welcome back to Talk Tickers. We're continuing our deep dive into Transocean's Q4 2024 earnings call. And I think this next topic will really pique your interest. Now, remember how we talked about their commitment to cost reduction?
Yeah, they mentioned a company-wide analysis. Did they give any more details on that?
Not specifics, but they emphasize that they're looking at, every aspect of their operations to find efficiencies. And it's interesting because this focus on cost reduction comes at a time when they're actually seeing a shift in customer preferences.
So I thought focus in the oil and gas industry was always on cutting costs.
It was for a long time. The name of the game was squeezing drilling contractors for the lowest rates, but now it seems the tide is turning.
So are you saying that customers are willing to pay more for Transocean's rigs?
It seems that way. They're realizing that quality and reliability come at a price, and in this business, downtime can be incredibly expensive.
Right.
So customers are starting to prioritize experience and a proven track record, and that plays right into Transocean's strengths.
It makes sense if you're a major oil company. You don't want to skimp on the equipment or expertise when you're drilling in some of the most challenging environments on Earth.
Right. And they're not just relying on their reputation, they're also going above and beyond when it comes to safety.
We talked about their use of robotics, but I'm curious about their overall safety culture. What stood out to you?
Their commitment to their people. They're investing heavily in training, using cutting-edge technology to minimize risk, and fostering a culture where safety is everyone's top priority.
And that commitment seems to be paying off.
Yeah.
They talked about achieving a record-breaking safety performance in 2024. right?
Yes, they achieved a total recordable incident rate of just 0.15. But what's even more impressive is that they had zero serious injuries or lost time incidents.
Wow.
That's a remarkable achievement in an industry that's inherently dangerous.
It's a testament to the fact that they're not just talking the talk when it comes to safety, they're walking the walk.
Absolutely. And I think that kind of commitment to their employees is something that investors and customers alike should take note of.
Speaking of leadership, we can't ignore the fact that there's a new CEO at the helm. What are your thoughts on Keelan Adamson taking over from Jeremy Thigpen?
It's definitely a big change. Thigpen was a strong leader who guided the company through some turbulent times, but Adamson brings a different perspective, having risen through the ranks starting on the drill floor.
He has a deep understanding of the company's operations and the challenges of offshore drilling firsthand.
Exactly, and he's taking over at a time when Transocean is actually very well positioned for the future. They've got a solid balance sheet, a modern fleet, and a clear vision for growth. I think he has the potential to be a very successful leader.
We talked earlier about the resurgence of traditional oil and gas, even as the world pushes towards renewable energy. Do you see this trend continuing?
I think it's inevitable. The energy transition is complex and will take time. Look at Equinor, even they're scaling back some of their renewable investments and focusing more on oil and gas production in the short term.
So even the companies that are leading the charge towards a greener future are recognizing that we still need oil and gas to meet global energy demands.
That's right. And that's why companies like Transocean are so important. They're providing the resources that the world needs, and they're doing it in a way that's safe, efficient, and technologically advanced. It's an exciting industry to be watching.
It really is, and I think Transocean is a company worth keeping a close eye on. They're at the forefront of a dynamic and evolving sector, and they seem to be making all the right moves to capitalize on the opportunities ahead.
I agree. I think they have a bright future. But before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, let's have a little fun with our
This is not financial advice segment.
Let's do it.
What if Transocean took a page from the tech industry and created a subscription service for their drilling rigs?
A drilling rig subscription service? That's a novel idea.
I know, right? Imagine oil and gas companies could subscribe to a certain number of drilling days per year. They'd get access to Transocean's top-of-the-line rigs and expertise, and Transocean would have a more predictable revenue stream.
It would be like the Netflix of offshore drilling.
Exactly.
Companies could choose a plan that suits their needs, and Transocean could offer different tiers of service depending on the complexity of the drilling project.
Exactly. They could even offer premium features like expedited maintenance or priority access to their newest rigs.
It's a wild idea, but who knows? Maybe that's the future of the industry. Remember, though, this is all hypothetical. We always encourage our listeners to do their own research before making any investment decisions.
That's right. We'll be back with the final part of our deep dive where we'll wrap things up and share some final thoughts on Transocean and the outlook for the offshore drilling industry. Welcome back to Talk Techers. As we wrap up our deep dive into Transocean's Q4 2024 earnings call, I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier.
Yeah.
The idea that traditional oil and gas still have a vital role to play in the global energy mix.
Yeah, it's a point that I think often gets lost in the conversation about renewable energy.
Right, yeah.
While the transition to a cleaner energy future is, essential, it's going to be a gradual process.
And in the meantime, the world needs reliable and affordable energy to keep running.
Exactly. And that's where companies like Transocean come in.
Okay.
Their expertise in deep water drilling is crucial for meeting that demand, especially as we see production plateauing or even declining in some mature fields.
So as those older oil fields start to dry up, we're going to need to tap into new sources, which often means going deeper and further offshore.
That's the trend we're seeing, and that plays right into Transocean's strengths.
Right.
They've got the technology, the expertise, and the global reach to operate in those challenging environments.
It's a reminder that the energy landscape is constantly evolving. What might seem like a sunset industry today could very well be a sunrise industry tomorrow.
That's a great point. It's all about adaptation and innovation, and Transocean seems to be embracing that challenge head on.
They're investing in cutting-edge technology. They're focused on safety and efficiency, and they're adapting to changing customer demands. It's a compelling story.
It really is. And I think it speaks to the resilience of the offshore drilling industry.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the key takeaway for our listeners?
I think the key takeaway is this: The energy sector is undergoing a profound transformation, but traditional oil and gas are still key players in the global energy mix, and companies like Transocean, with their proven track record and commitment to innovation, are poised to play a crucial role in this evolving landscape.
Well said. It's an exciting time to be watching this industry, and Transocean is definitely a company to keep on your radar.
I completely agree. They're a fascinating case study in how a company can adapt, innovate, and thrive in a changing world.
Now, before we sign off, we have to indulge in our
Right.
"This is not financial advice" segment.
Let's do it.
Imagine this: Transocean partners with a major cruise line to create a luxury offshore drilling rig that doubles as a vacation destination.
A drilling rig that's also a cruise ship.
Exactly. Picture it: state-of-the-art drilling technology combined with five-star accommodations, gourmet dining, and breathtaking ocean views.
So you could literally watch oil being extracted while sipping a cocktail by the pool.
You got it. It would be the ultimate adventure vacation, perfect for energy enthusiasts and thrill seekers alike. They can even offer excursions to nearby islands or underwater exploration of the drilling site.
That's certainly a unique concept. I'm not sure how feasible it would be, but it's definitely an entertaining thought.
Hey, you never know. Stranger things have happened. But remember, this is all in good fun. As always, we encourage our listeners to do their own research and consult with a financial advisor before making any investment decisions.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us on Talk Tickers.
See ya.